Well. Revo's here, and we got us a doozy. Seems Montreal games just came out. WB Warner Brothers Montreal came out. They're confirming that Gotham Knights will not be running at 60 frames per second on the PS5 or the Xbox, but it will only run at 30 frames a second. So this game is coming out in less than a week. What happened is it was a whistleblower, somebody that signed the NDA, non-disclosure agreement, came out, disclosed anyway, that the game only runs 30 frames a second on the later gen consoles, and that now that it's not running 60 frames per second. There has been kind of a fight to suppress it, but finally, one of the designers at Warner Brothers Montreal came out, and they responded in the Discord for the game, stating, "I know many of you are wondering about the availability of a performance mode for Gotham Knights on consoles. Due to the type of features we have in our game, like providing a fully untethered co-op experience in our highly detailed open world, it is not straightforward. It's not as straightforward as lowering the resolution and getting a higher frames per second. For this reason, our game does not have a performance or quality toggle option, and will run at 30 frames per second on consoles." Now, people, it is all over the internet. They're just tearing this game apart. How can you be 30 frames a second? These consoles can handle 120 frames a second, 60 frames a second. Spider-Man has been able to go on and do 60 frames or more than when they redid it, remastered. And I want to give a newer perspective on this. I'm not going to tear it down, and I'm just playing devil's advocate. I don't have a dog in this fight. As I said when I did my reaction to it, I'm kind of iffy on the game. It looks promising. It's for me. But one thing that was mentioned from day one with this game is it is kind of heavily influenced the co-op missions co-op. There are even rumors going on about a 4-person co-op mode, and everybody's dogging this game for this, not really for the co-op, but saying, "I don't really want a co-op game." Well, this is where they took it. In the trailer, they talking about Batman's dead, and that these people got it, and that the other members of the Bat family have to step up. So it's heavily co-opted. But when I hear people talk about this, and they just say, "Oh, well, there's other games that have multiplayer. Elden Ring has multiplayer." They're bringing up all these games have multiplayer. It seems everybody is missing the point about it being untethered. So untethered would mean that you're not linked to the person. And also, you and your co-op partner are moving freely throughout the world. How does that differ? If you ever played Elden Ring, you will know when you call for help at a cave or a boss fight, you leave that cave, your partner disappears. You need summoning stones, and there's a special parameter that you and your partner can move in, which basically means without knowing, you're in an instance. You're tethered. The person you tethered to, if they step outside that zone, you're disconnected. You are not playing together. How many co-op games do you play where all parties must be available to proceed? You're tethered. How many games where you have it to where you gotta wait till the person catch up to you? They don't get credit because they're out of range. You're tethered. What this game is talking about doing is and when you play this game, you're not logging into a server, right? There's no servers here. Essentially, that means that you and the partner you playing with, their systems, your systems, will have to deal with the load of running the game. So it's kind of unfair for people to say Spider-Man and these other massive, or Arkham even. A lot of people are throwing Arkham in his face. Now, if you want to say the combat looks janky or Arkham has better combat, have at it. Fine. Just pure on the city and moving freely through the city at 60 frames. Well, all I say to you is imagine, then the developers have said this. You can be doing a quest on a completely other side of the city, fighting crime there, and the other person can fight crime and where they are on the opposite side of the city. And you will not get disconnected. There's no disconnection. Also, if you start in a quest, a major quest or major side quest, the person has an option to either join in, or if they already completed it, skip it, or just do it with you. Okay, so this is what we're talking about with untethered. Untethered would mean this. So the system would basically have to keep the whole data of this map rather than quick loading the information as you travel, like say you're web traveling as Spider-Man. So what untethered would mean, I can be right here doing a quest up here. You see I didn't finish this game. Just go with the premise. I could be fighting that Rhaenyra. I think that is the boss here. Anyway, I could be here clearing the courtyard. Untethered would mean the person can be here. And I'm here clearing the courtyard. They are and they're over here fighting. And so we're going through the world together. And I found a shack. There's a mob here I can't kill. Well, I found a ruin. You want to go through the ruin? And at that time, I can either make my way there. I'll get the option. I'll make my way there, or, fast travel. But at the same time, we're doing two completely different things in the world. Now, I don't think the map would be this big. I mean, it would be amazing if the map is this big, or even as detailed as what I'm saying. But that's what it would mean if it's untethered. There's no disconnection. We are literally, both of our characters are in this world, not instance. Now, if it's not server based, your system has to deal with this load to process that I'm here doing this and you are here doing this. And as I make my way here, load this up or bring this into the forefront, which systems have mastered. You've played Elden Ring. No, there's really no loading screen or anything for you doing that, or Spider-Man. However, it now has to keep the data of what you're doing live time. So by the time I get to you, I can see that you're fighting, you need help, you're waiting at the entrance, or at the entrance of whatever. So it has to keep all of that information. That's a lot. That's new. And if people were wondering why they didn't do that in Elden Ring, that's why they didn't do it in Elden Ring. It's easier to lock it off in the instance and y'all to exist in the instance. But for two people to be in a massive world, detailed world, they're saying it's detailed. We'll see how detailed it is. But for two people to be in a massively detailed world like this, interacting like this, it hasn't been done yet. Can they pull it off? There's actually some footage where you see that Nightwing shows up, and as he's showing up, Red Hood is already fighting. So they're trying to do something different, right? And I do not think people give these consoles too much credit. Now, are these the top consoles? Yes. They're not computers. They're not even up to date with the current computers. There's a video out there by Gamers Nexus showing that to do a side-by-side comparison as far as performance is concerned, as the PS5, they used like a 1080 Ti, and it was matching it pretty much blow for blow and still outdoing it in certain aspects. So certain things it's not going to be able to handle. And Gotham Knights already had a negative light on it for its reasons. I already knew that. When if you look at Gotham Knights, the town is very smoky. You deal with a lot of gaming and graphics. Fog helps you. It helps reduces the frames because you don't have to load in all that detail, right? So I was already kind of in the mindset of that, but I think people are just doing they're on this game and they're acting like this game is an outlier, and I don't think it is. You're going to find out more games are not going to be running outside of the super top tier, top notch games, the Ragnaroks, which are probably the exclusives. I think are going to be the ones where they're going to be maxing out the frames. A lot of these games, especially where you find out that they were making it for PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox X. You notice a lot of these games are dropping their PS4, PS5, the PS4, and their previous Xbox versions. People forgot that Cyberpunk actually requested more time and was denied because they said they had to do 9 different test setups, one for each version, plus Stadia, and trying to make sure it stayed up to par graphically. So I think a lot of these newer games are going to have this stumbling block, so to speak, where they're going to be locked at 30 because they were probably going to be made for several of both consoles of Stadia. Now Stadia is defunct. Cyberpunk also is making something for Stadia. Oh, well, I'm paying $70. Yes, you are, but who's charging you $70? Xbox and PlayStation. Most of the games, good or bad, top tier or not, they're going to charge $70. Where PC people can get those same games for 30, sometimes 70, 60. If they know where they'll know where to go. This game is $60 on Steam, and $80 for deluxe on Steam. It is $70 for PS5 and Xbox, and it is $90 for deluxe. That's the licensing. But if you look here, Plague 12 Requiem will be locked at 30 frames on consoles. According to a Reset Era user, somebody at the company, Plague Tale can hit 60 frames, but they mentioned the game was averaging 40 or 50 frames per second for a day one patch. And they said it still didn't hit 60 frames consistently. So I don't think, compare that with a system, and even if you got a system, is your TV up to date? If your TV's up to date, you're still gonna be soft locked anyway. I think for a while this is going to be the way the games are. Anybody else who's a gamer remember about 2 or 3 years in the PS4, X and Xbox One were saying, "Oh yeah, we're just starting to tap into what these systems are capable of, and we're just getting into, really remember how you couldn't tell the difference too much between a PS4 game, PS3 game, a Xbox 360 game, um, Xbox One game, and an Xbox 360 game, because they were still making games for both sides. We're still in that soft spot. They're still making games, or they're starting to drop them after Cyberpunk and several other ones. They're no longer doing it to where you got to make basically 4 and 5 different versions of the copies of the same game. But to expect that you're going to be 60 frames, very few games are going to run at 60 frames right now. Very few. Very, very, very few. And if you look at the story here, this dropped right after Gotham Knights was called out. So be prepared for more games to all of a sudden it's being found out more games are locked at 30 frames per second. I know it sucked. You paid $500 for these consoles, but you ain't going to get the bang for your buck or your money's worth unless it's the big names. Maybe Halo Infinite was crappy. Thor Ragnarok. Those big companies, those big titles, which they have the exclusivity, so they're gonna have this. It's gonna be specifically designed for what that system is and maximizing that system. These regular companies who got to make it for everybody, they're not going to be able to do that right now. Now, as I said, I'm playing Devil. Gotham Knights can still suck on every other aspect, and I've always said the idea and the premise is creative, where you are in a giant sandbox that's not server or client based, and you and your friends literally are going around fighting crime. It's an interesting dynamic. I think it is good. However, you still got to deliver on the fighting. Still got to deliver, and they're going RPG with it. I just think personally, if they didn't do Gotham, if they didn't touch Batman, if they would have did anybody out of Batman and Superman and maybe did it like a mini DC where you choosing other, I would say, not like Hawkeye, Hawkman, minor heroes, it would work. But the fact that what they're doing with this game, moving Batman out the way, that rubbed people the wrong way. The game doesn't look, on PC it looks better, but it doesn't look as polished as Arkham. And then the fight system doesn't look as polished as Arkham. I think it's rubbing people the wrong way, but I think it is completely unnecessary to beat this game up the way it is, because that's just how it is when these consoles first come out. And so what they're saying that this system can what these systems can handle, the PS5 and Xbox, the new Xbox system, they can't hang it right now. Xbox Series X, they can't hang these frames right now. That is a lot. Do not forget, your frames and excuse me, your frames and the resolution are pulling on both the same things. And as good as it is, it's just not there yet. But I would love to hear your comments down below. Am I crazy? Am I just trying to stick up for a bad game? I hope you do enjoy. Again, this is Revos, and goodbye for now.